Man, who would have thought that two of the most innocuously titled episodes of Amphibia would be possibly some of the most important, huh? These episodes, the Sleepover to End All Sleepovers and Day at the Aquarium, I think is what it was called, the second one, that is, were really freaking good. Like, at first, I genuinely thought they were just going to be what they said on the tin, right? Like, they dropped the knowledge bomb at the start of the first of these two episodes that we're going to hear from the king the following day, but I assumed when Hop Pop dropped Sprig and Polly and Anne off at Marcy's room in the castle, that the second of these two episodes, the aquarium one, would follow him as he went to an aquarium and got into Hop Pop shenanigans, right? That these would just be a couple of cute, like, relationship buildy fillers. And the Sleepover to End All Sleepovers starts as one of those. Like, we get a bit more of a feel for the dynamic between Anne and Marcy and Sasha, because apparently they did sleepovers a lot, and so they keep referencing back to the sleepovers they had with Sasha, trying to have a really great sleepover, a comparatively great, comparably great, rather, sleepover, dear God, for Sprig and Polly. And, like, these three girls don't come across like people who would be friends with each other. It seems like they don't have a lot in common. But I think I'm starting to understand their dynamic better. Sasha obviously likes to be in control. And Anne and Marcy, to varying degrees, let her take charge. And I don't think that means that she didn't actually like them. I just think it means that her specific dynamic with them was goading them into doing things they didn't want to do, and that they wanted to impress her because they found her impressive, right? Maybe not the healthiest friendship, but there's, I think, definitely a foundation there for something if they can genuinely impress her once for real and she can come down off her high horse a little bit. I think they'll be able to sort of meet in the middle, and their shared experiences with each other will translate into a renewed and stronger friendship, if that makes sense. Like, even in my wildest dreams, I never expected an episode called The Sleepover to End All Sleepovers to be the one where we find out that acid ghosts are apparently a thing in the Amphibiaverse. Because Lady What's-Her-Face, I still don't know her name, mentions straight up as the four of them are running around the castle doing the shenanigans, that there are certain places they're supposed to stay out of, especially the basement, so of course they go down to the basement. And I was just expecting maybe, because at this point I was still kind of half expecting the second episode to be a buffer between this and when we saw the king again, that maybe they would go down to the basement and the episode would end off with them, like, reacting to something shocking that'll lead into their meeting with the king. Some hidden truth about him, and it kind of was, right? They find a crypt with hallways. The two exits from the crypt are hallways that are lined with mirrors because these jellyfish-like acid ghost things live in the coffins because apparently they eat bones by dissolving them, but they only remain ghost-like and non-corporeal until their own bioluminescence is reflected back upon them. So they tend to avoid mirrors, or the mirrors are there, so if they ever get out, they can be used to beat them back, or it doesn't matter. The point is, Marcy, being the smart one, is able to come together with Anne, the actionable one, and they're able to work out how the mirror thing works in order to defeat these things and put them back, kind of. Not really. They're still technically loose, and we don't know if the whole becoming corporeal thing is permanent or not. It's just very crazy, because these things were non-corporeal, like ghosts. It's not like they were some kind of animal. These were like magical creatures, and they had that same sort of ethereal glow to them as the various kinds of magical energy that we've seen throughout the show in different places. And what the hell is that crypt? What is that? Is it like a crypt of past rulers or something? Because hasn't Leviathan been on the throne for a really stinking long time? Because these were really ornate coffins. One of them in particular, like, they called special attention to one of them. I have no idea what the hell's going on. Like, this show, most of the lore tidbits it drops are pretty small, but they're still substantial enough that I always feel like this show is adding to its lore. Every time I get close to releasing a theory about this show, they drop something that makes me think, I'm going to wait for the next big lore update because I feel like they're building to something, and I'd like to incorporate that into my theory. But then they drop something like this, and I have no idea how to make it work. I have no idea what this is building to at all. At all. Except maybe those ornate coffins were coffins of past rulers who Leviathan and or Leviathan's family usurped. Maybe. I don't know. That's a thing people have been theorizing about him, because he's not a newt, but at the same time he's not just the king of the newts, he's the king of all amphibians, and he's based on an actual amphibian that's like the biggest amphibian, so it makes sense that he might be the king in this world. So maybe they're not implying that he's an usurper. But then there was this torn painting down in the basement, which seems to show the royal family, and it seems to have a frog or a toad in it, so who frickin' knows? Dude's definitely sinister, though. The more we learn about him, the more it becomes clear that there is something sinister about this guy. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Because as much as this episode was, and I don't know what the heck to do with this information kind of episode, the next episode made my theory completely irrelevant by confirming most of the stuff that I was going to say in it. Which is always fun. You gotta love stuff like that. Now I have to rework the entire damn thing just to make it mostly functional again. That's going to be great. Because the next episode does in fact open with the Planters and Marcy going to meet the king. And he reveals straight up that the music box is a portal between worlds. We even see a small map which seems to show not just Earth and Amphibia, but several other worlds that it can go to. And we learn that the gemstones are in fact what power it and allow it to transport people, and that there are specific places throughout Amphibia, temples specifically, where the energy of those gemstones can be recharged, making the Calamity Box work again. Like, we knew all this stuff. The show telegraphed all these things to us, but they hadn't been confirmed yet, and I didn't expect them to be. I didn't expect them to just tell us these things at the beginning of an otherwise unrelated episode. Like, it's vaguely related, but I expected Leviathan to be more vague. I didn't expect him to show so much of his hand. Though he's definitely still lying about stuff, because he mentions his family specifically used to visit other worlds using the box, and that they were explorers, scientists. Even the way he says it, it's clear it's more like they were conquerors, or like they were going around trying to get people to assimilate, and or maybe they were bringing back resources and technology from other worlds. One way or another, they were like doing a colonization to these places, right? At least that's my best guess right now as to what exactly he is still glossing over. Because you always have, like, colonizers, like, their personal narrative, the narrative of the colonizer, is that they're the consummate explorer, the intellectual who is bringing their intellect to other places, right? It felt kind of like that. But more importantly, we now know how to get the girls home, technically speaking. Which means all they need to do is get Sasha, even by force, while they have the box and it's charged, and theoretically they could go home. But it also seems like, and I'm going to spoil a little bit of Owl House stuff that I haven't talked about in an Owl House review yet, because I haven't gotten there yet. Seems like maybe Leviathan is trying to do an Emperor Dumb Mask. That's my name for the villain of the Owl House, because I can never remember his actual name, the Emperor guy. Emperor Dumb Mask. And that he actually wants the box so he can use it to start going to other worlds again himself. Like, at the end of this episode, he even approaches Marcy as Anne and the Planters leave Newtopia to head back to... what's it called? Wormwood? Is that what it's called? Shoot. I'm just going to roll with it. Wormwood. As they head back to get the box and bring it back. Or bring it back. Wait to bring it back until Marcy's done preparing for the trip to the temples or something. It doesn't really matter. They're going back to the valley. We're going to get some more stuff in the valley, and then we're going to continue this Newtopia plotline, right? But he approaches Marcy, and it seems like he's finally about to show his true colors, about to show his hand. It seems like he's going to try to recruit her proper and even drive a wedge between her and Anne. It's very interesting. That's where the episode stopped. Really pissed me off because I was really getting into it. This scene started, I'm like, oh, this is going to be great, and then it just stops halfway through. It stops before anything can actually happen. Like, yeah, we know the dude's sinister. It's pretty obvious at this point. This just felt like a tease, and now we're not going to be following Marcy again for a while, so we're not going to get an answer as to what he was actually proposing for a while, and it's bumming me out. The episode itself was actually pretty fun. At first, Anne is going to stay with Marcy because it makes more sense for the humans who are going to be going back together not to separate unless they have to. Like even by the end of the episode, the intention is not for the Planters to come back. It seems like the intention is for, once they're actually ready to head to the temples, for Anne to bring the box back, but the rest of the Planters stay. And then Marcy and Anne, and I guess like some soldiers or whatever, maybe some night guard or whatever, go on quests to the temples to recharge the box themselves. So, like, it made more sense. It makes more sense, logically speaking, for Anne to stay back. And Marcy insists that they should follow logic and reason because they're so close they can't risk screwing this up at this point. But when she sees how much Anne needs more time to say goodbye to the Planters, she pushes Anne to go, and Anne goes. But up until then, Anne thought she was staying, that this was the last time she was going to see them. And they're all sad through the whole thing, but they're trying to have a whole day where they can have a proper, not sad goodbye before they say their goodbye. Which, of course, leads to Sprig, in his despair, becoming threatened by a pair of deadly manta rays. I'm sure I don't need to explain the sequence of events there, as it, I think, makes perfect sense. The A to B here is pretty obvious. No, they go to an aquarium. It's in the title. And I gotta say, it's super relatable that when they want to feel better, they go to see some animals, because I also like to go look at animals when I feel down. It was pretty good. It was a pretty good episode. It felt like, for a while there, Anne really was going to stay, because this episode did feel like a last hurrah for this little foursome. Everything at the aquarium is reminding them of all the stuff they've done before, and then they have a big Planter family-style action sequence at the end. It was good. It was a good potential send-off for these characters who it doesn't seem we're actually sending off yet. A bit of a red herring, I guess would be the best way to put it, but still pretty solid as far as episodes go. In fact, both of these episodes were really solid. The A and B plots of these episodes were all pretty solid. They were enjoyable. We got a decent chunk of lore here. And I'm really excited to see where the show goes from here. Definitely going to push that theory through faster this time, though. Regardless of how much I want just that little bit more to make it special, I'm going to get that video out before we get any more lore reveals. I got to make it work, because if I don't, it's just never going to happen. That said, what did you guys think of the sleepover to end all sleepovers and A Day at the Aquarium? If you have seen them, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. What do you think specifically King Leviathan's scheme is, plans are, however you would put it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below or over on my Discord in the Amphibia section. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later. Oh, actually, I'm going to jump in again real quick to say, in case that theory doesn't actually work out after all, I do think Leviathan is lying about how the box is powered, because if I'm right, the girls have become infused with that power. And assuming that it, like, runs off their own metabolisms now at this point or something, I don't think they'll, like, ever run out of it. So it's possible he wants to bring them back together so that they will power the box, that he knows more about how their powers work than they do. So he's going to send Marcy and Anne on a quest together to try to trigger their powers and get that power back from them and back into the box. But if that ends up being the case, if they have the power inside them now, and the power really is just the power to travel between worlds, this could be a Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz kind of situation where they had the power to go home all along, they just all three had to come together. Okay, now, for reals, I'll talk to you guys later.